Hi, I'm Mike Massimino, coming to you from where I'm sheltering in place in New York. I hope wherever you are, you're healthy and dealing with the situation as best you can. It's been tough for a lot of people. I've spoken to lots of people, try to keep in touch with as many of my friends and colleagues as I can. And a lot of things that we have worked for the past few years have been challenged during this time. Relationships, our businesses that we built up, they're all under a bit of stress, and we have to work together, I think, and stick together to persevere and realize we're not alone. Um, as astronauts, we were trained to deal with these types of situations of sheltering in place and being isolated, being away from home and away from the planet. And in some ways, that's what we're dealing with here. And some of the emotions I felt as an astronaut, I'm feeling again, that feeling of a bit of loneliness and a separation, but nothing quite compared in my space experiences to going out and doing a spacewalk. I'm going to share and show you some pictures to help tell my story. This is me on my very first spacewalk, and this was quite an experience of going out in my own space. So I got to do 4 spacewalks in my spaceflight career, all working on the Hubble Space Telescope. And as I went outside for that first time, I really felt like I was a spaceman. I was a spacewalker out there in my own spacesuit, which I realized was my own spaceship. It was meant for me and me alone for those hours that I was using it. And it was keeping me and only me alive. And it was a much different feeling than when I was inside of the cabin of the spaceship with my friends. Now I'm outside like my own spaceship, and I could look down and see the Earth and realize that all my family and everyone I had worked with to get ready for the mission, who was not on the crew, was down there. And I felt that separation, and I was trying to do the best job I could. On my 4th spacewalk was a very challenging spacewalk. This is my second flight to the Hubble Space Telescope. And by this spacewalk, it was a very complicated, the most complicated spacewalk we ever attempted. Over 100 new tools were designed for this one spacewalk. We trained for it for years, and it happened to fall on my day when I was going to be going outside. I was prepared to do this spacewalk. And I go out the door with my astronaut buddy, Mike Good, and we get out to the telescope, and everything seems to be going fine. The simplest thing I was going to do that day was remove a handrail, which was blocking access to a power supply I needed to replace. Handrail just had 4 easy bolts to take off, and I stripped one of those bolts, and the handrail's not going to come off. And I realized what I had done was I put the repair in jeopardy. There's no way we're going to replace that power supply because we can't get this handrail out of the way. We're not going to be able to discover life somewhere else in the universe, and everyone on the planet will blame me forever. And I just felt terrible, and I felt like, who's going to help me? You know, my buddy and I were kind of out there on our own. I looked to the Earth where every hardware store that I needed was down there, and all our support team and my family and everyone was down there. And I felt so separated from them. I felt so alone, separated from the Earth. I've never felt so alone in my life. And I felt terrible about it. I'm going to show you this picture here. Look at me. I don't look happy. I'm not happy in that picture. I want to share with you one thing I was trying to keep in mind during this nightmare that I was living out there while I was spacewalking. And one of the things I kept I think it's good to have something to keep in mind when things go wrong. And what I tried to remember is something I learned as an astronaut, which is give yourself 30 seconds of regret. When you make a mistake, you're going to make mistakes, 30 seconds of regret, and then move on. I made this bad mistake, but I said, I'm going to give myself 30 seconds of regret. I felt bad about it for a few seconds, as I've got to get engaged again and do the best I can. That's in the past. Now we have to try to fix it. And I don't want to make things worse because it could always get worse. So don't make it worse. Give the team a chance to respond, and let's see what we do. I had no hope because I knew the repair, and I realized there's no way we're going to be able to repair this. But the ground team was working on it. They did not abandon me. I didn't realize this. I couldn't see them. I couldn't even hear what they were doing because they were having their conversations on their own down on the Earth, and we were trying to see what we could do in space to keep things moving. And then they came up with a solution. What you look at is my flight controller, Tony Sacacci, on the right, and the guy on the left is my good friend, our Capcom communicating with us, Dan Burbank, my astronaut classmate. They were working with the backroom teams and people around the country, the team at the Goddard Space Flight Center in particular in Maryland, working with the team where these guys were at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. And their solution, after doing some testing, was to see if I could use brute force to rip that handrail off. And we wouldn't only do that because it could throw metal up into the telescope or damage my spacesuit. So they had me tape the bottom of it. And I gave it a couple of yanks, and sure enough, it came off. And then after that, I was a happy astronaut, and the rest of the repair went pretty well. But for that, it was about an hour and a half. I felt very alone, just really disappointed what I had done. I felt I let the whole team down. And then they came up with a solution, which was great. And I didn't realize how much help I really had until I got back to Earth. And I started asking questions. What did you guys do? How'd you come up with that idea? And I heard how someone came up with the idea, and they radioed it up to the Goddard Space Flight Center, where we had our engineering instruments and units to work on, and they pulled it out of a clean room, and they did the test, and it worked, and then they discussed it, and they sent it up, and I realized all these people, and it happened on a Sunday afternoon, all these people were there for me. They were waiting there to help. I needed to help, and I was never really alone. So all that time, when I felt so alone and so separated from the Earth and so sad about what I had done, none of my team abandoned me. None of my friends, my family, everyone was there still thinking of me, giving me, wishing me good thoughts. And they came, the engineering team on the Hubble Space Telescope came through for me that day. So I try to remember that now, that my team is still in place, my family and friends and the people I work with and all my colleagues are still there. We're just separated for a little while, and we are going to be reunited. And I also learned at NASA that we really find out what a great team we had when the chips were down, whether it was a tragedy, an accident, or something like this, where we've made a mistake. The team comes together. They did not let me down for one moment. They were not going to blame me. They were going to help me as much as they could. And that's when I really found out the value of the team that I was on. And I think that's where we are now. We're still part of the valuable teams that we had before we went into this mode of operation that we're in. We're still teammates. We're still crewmates. And we're going to be working together again soon enough. So just hang in there. Thank you.